tell me about that experience. Did you beat anybody's ass? What happened?
Oh, you know what? That is such a great, I love that you brought that up. The Rock was like my idol. You talk about like a restart. Think about that, dude. Plays in the NFL, broke, has absolutely nothing, and says, I don't care that I have nothing. I don't care. I'm going to continue to get in entertainment, and is now the number one paid actor of all time. I mean, it's crazy.
And he left wrestling to go act. Like, he changed his life so many times. Like, that's crazy.
But he knew, like, we talk about like the self-exam, the rewire process. He knew there was something special about him when it came to entertainment. It didn't matter if it was a WWE. It didn't matter if it was hosting. It didn't matter if it was acting. He was going to find his lane under all circumstances. He did. Look where he is.
Bam. Jayson Waller here with the True Underdog Podcast, and I've got a special guest today. I know the ladies that are watching this are super excited because I've got an entrepreneur, an investor, a speaker. He's a former corporate banker. He hosts his own podcast of top charting business and trading secrets. And he was a contestant, ladies, on season 14 of ABC's The Bachelorette. My man, Jason Tartick. How you doing?
Jason, I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Good, good. That was a great intro, right?
It was a great intro. I love the energy. You know what? I was going to get a cup of coffee before this, and I feel like with that intro, I don't need it. I'm good to go.
Good. I drink them all day. So, you know, it's like 8 shots of espresso in each one. I try to drink 2 or 3. I'm golden. So, listen, you've got a new book out, and it's called Trading Secrets. Let me see here. I got the book right here. It's actually called Restarting the Roadmap. I see it behind you right there. Talk about the book. I'll get into your history in a minute, but talk about the book and why it's important, because I want the listeners to dive into what you're going to talk about.
For sure. So the book's called The Restart Roadmap, Rewire and Reset Your Career. And the premise of it, for 10 years, I was the blueprint guy. You tell me where to go, I'm going to go. You tell me to get an MBA, I'm going to get an MBA. I was the yes man, in early, out late, exceeding expectations. And I took one detour in my career, one that was against what everyone told me what I should do, and that was to go on a reality television show. They're like, dude, you got a rocket on your back in corporate America. What are you doing? You're going to risk and ruin it all. And what I really learned in that time was that I lost my entire identity through the job, through my title, through everything else. And I was living a company mission. I was talking the way they wanted me to talk and looking the way they wanted to look. And I lost myself. And as wild as it is, it was a reality television show that got me on track to better understand who I am, where I want to go, and the story I want to write for myself as opposed to it being written for me. So the Restart Roadmap is an 8-step process that I have learned through my time in unscripted television and some of the offices of the biggest Wall Street executives of different steps you can take, or anyone can take, if they're trying to make a minor change in their career or an absolutely material change where they live, where they work, the industry that they're working in every day.
I think people out there, especially in corporate America or any kind of job, they get scared to take risks. They get scared to follow their dreams, and they think that they'd rather play it safe and to not lose than play to win. And winning isn't how much money you make. I mean, sure, money's great, and it's not your title. That's great, but it's feeling fulfilled. And you felt like in a job making great money in corporate America, corporate banking, doing your thing, you weren't fulfilled, correct?
Correct. I was 29 years old, and it was interesting because I got everything I wanted. I got a regional executive came to me and said, Jason, we want you to move across the country because we need a market and we need someone to spark it and get it going. Will you go? And at 29, I got the senior VP title. I got the $110,000 signing bonus, the base salary of almost $200,000 with upside that you can more than double. Everything I wanted, literally everything I wanted. It was interesting is that climbing up that ladder, I got to that room, into that office, and I was so unfulfilled. And I think about this, I was lucky to see that vision in 9 years. How many people spend their whole life trying to get to that point only to realize it's not what they envisioned? Because if you're chasing only money and only title and only power and nothing else, I promise you'll be left empty-handed.
Well, in your book, I'm sure you mentioned how you have to reset that, right? What are some of the tips that the listeners and viewers out there, if they're stuck in a job that they feel like they have to pay their bills, they feel all the pressure of this is what's your role in life, what couple tips would you give them to really get off of that?
For sure. So I get right into this in chapter 3 of the book. And the idea about this is you can't restart until you rewire. And you have to do self-examination right down to the bedrock of who you are, why you're there, and what put you in this position. And you got to get deep. It could be as easy as like pressures from where you grew up and the suggestions from mom and dad, or it could be deeper than that. You really have to understand where it is that got you there. The second thing you got to do is you got to really put a solution in place, because there is no cookie cutter solution here. It's got to be customized. Are you not making a move because of mobility? Is it compensation? Do passions not align with what you're doing? Do you not have natural skill set with what you're doing? Or is it just fear? It's one of those 5 things. And once you get into the bedrock of who you are, you'll be able to understand what those things are. And then you'll be able to put a solution in place, because there is no cookie cutter, one size fits all.
And with your story, you got on the TV show Bachelorette, right? Is that the reality show that you got on the first
Correct.
time?
Yep. That was it.
What made you apply for that? Like what hit you and said, you know what, I'm going to go and try to get on this show? How did that come about?
You know what? It just kind of fell into a weird place. I was asked when I lived in Rochester, New York, to be a bachelor for Gilda's Club. Now, Gilda's Club is put in place to raise money for families undergoing any form of cancer treatment. They round up 30 guys in the area, all different ages and backgrounds. They have this big event. People dress up. You come on stage, you dance, you do what you got to do, and you got to raise money so someone bids on you to go on a date with you. That money all goes to the charity. I came out that night to old time rock and roll. You know, shirt came off, I came flying out, air guitar left and right. I was working the crowd and I earned the most money. That video got sent to ABC. 9 months later, when I didn't even live in Rochester, New York, I get a call saying, hey, we got this video from you. Are you still single? And do you live in Rochester, New York? And the funny thing is I was single, but I didn't live in Rochester, New York. And I think there's a lot to take away from that. You just never know what opportunities might lead to something else. And it's usually if you rewire, if anybody out there, just look up, to talk to me about someone you look up to. Stop focusing on where they are today, rewire how they got there. And I guarantee you there was 8 different detours, 10 different failures, and huge changes that created launch pads for what was next for them. And this was just one of those examples for me.
Well, I know my executive assistant was excited for me to have you on the show, because she's like, oh my gosh, he's one of my favorite. He was on The Bachelorette. I'm like, really? I've never watched the show, but I can see why the chicks dig you, why you were popular on the show. But what did that do for your career? Like, you got on the show, it's reality TV. I've been on some TV things, so I understand the dynamic of it. And, some of it's scripted, some of it's not. You got to try to create some kind of drama. But from that, what did you learn to say, I got to focus this way? Like, how did that change?
Totally. I think it's such a fair question. And the reason, you guys already heard me drop some numbers on this podcast. I talk openly and honestly about numbers. The podcast I have is called Trading Secrets. All we do is talk about numbers, where money's made and lost, because I think when we can get over that politically correct bullshit, we can actually learn so much about where money is earned and money's lost. And to your question, before I went on the show, I had a 2-year plan in Seattle. I was going to work my 2 years, and then I figured out financially my MBA, my undergrad were paid off, and I knew I had enough flexibility to go chase the career I wanted. So I had a 2-year plan. All of a sudden, it was disrupted by a reality television show. I go on the show, I come back. All of a sudden, I got this platform, and I go back to work. Now, what was interesting is about a year later, I was making more money, Jason, in one picture posting than I was making in a month of working, 40 plus hours a week. And so what happened was I was put in this ultimatum because my now fiance, girlfriend at the time, made a funny statement on her podcast. And that statement, it was a funny, she does confessions. She tells funny confessions to make people realize we're all human and we have embarrassing moments. And she talked about the first time we hooked up, fully clothed experience that was funny. And it hit headlines, and the bank brought me in after 10 years, exceeding expectations every year, and said, Jason, you either restart your career at this bank or you go restart your career outside this bank. But if you do it at this bank, there's no social media, there's no podcast, there's nothing. It's bank only talk. I'm like, well, I have to then get rid of so much side hustle that's contributing to my cash inflow. Like, we don't care. So I restarted my entire career outside the bank. And one of the things I did was create a consulting company called Restart to help people with financial literacy and also navigate their careers if they were in positions like I was that just wasn't fulfilling them. So it really was the platform that gave me the jump start. But a lot of people get platforms and don't take advantage of the jump start. To take advantage of the jumpstart, you have to really understand how you have some type of niche background or expertise that can bring value to your listener or to your viewer every single day.
No, you're dropping gems right now. I know folks are getting that, and it's crazy in the world we live in, right? Where like I have 4 kids, and my 11-year-old told me I want to grow up and be a YouTuber. I don't want to go to college. I want to be a YouTuber. I've adjusted my mindset to say, dude, by all means, let's make it happen, right? But in the world that we grew up in, there was this box that our parents and that their parents boxed us in. You have to go to college. You have to do this. And then you get into corporate America and it's, you got to follow our way. You can't be yourself. You got to follow the old school. They're not evolving, right? They're not evolving. And something just came up yesterday that my attorney brought up is he's like, do you know the CEO of Goldman Sachs? I'm like, yeah, I know. He's like, yeah, you're the bald guy. He's like, you know where he was this past weekend? I said, no. He said he was DJing at an MPD a party. He's out there DJing, doing all this stuff. They obviously get it, but a lot of folks don't get it that you have to be yourself. Like I run a company, we got 2,200 employees. I do a podcast. I drop F-bombs if I have to get people fired up, but I have a life outside of running my company. And we're talking about going public, big things, but I'm not going to change who I am. And I wouldn't expect other people to change who they are. But where you were, a lot of people seem to get back into that old school 1990s, 1980s mentality prior to social media when you can evolve and do your thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, just think about that ultimatum if you can for a second. So my wife or my fiance, soon to be wife, is a killer entrepreneur. Everything she touches turns to gold. And now I'm working for a company that is putting restrictions not only on what I do in my life and outside my work life, but they want me to manage how my fiance is speaking in her businesses. I mean, that is such over control in my opinion. And I think to exactly your point, we're seeing blueprint breakers all day, like your son, and like people who are like, I'm going to live out my dream. And even when you do have that company with 2,200 employees or the CEO of Goldman Sachs who's DJing, you're teaching people to drop into who they are, to really learn like what makes them tick and who they are and what they stand for and how they speak and how they act. And you're never, I don't think, going to get absolute pinnacle out of your employees or your people until they do that, right? I have an employee who we might have a meeting at 5 or 6 o'clock. She loves to have a glass of wine. What the hell do I care if she has a glass of wine? If that's what she wants to have and she'll still attend the meeting to get things done, drop into yourself, because once you are yourself, you're going to be the best version of yourself at work and at home. And those two things overlap and bleed into one another, as you know, with 2,200 plus employees.
Yeah, and you talk about numbers, and numbers never lie. I don't have any issues of people moonlighting, and for listeners and viewers out there, that means people that are working for you in leadership, they decide to have a side hustle. As long as it doesn't affect their work efforts and their numbers are great, and it's not confusing the people that report to them, who cares? Like, that's what it's about. Embrace your inner self and figure out what that is. And I think that too many times people are scared of the unknown and they don't understand what's going on out there in social media. There is a plus to it. It's amazing to me on the kind of platform. I was just talking to Austin Keene. He's a famous surfer, right?
Yeah.
And you know, he was telling me how one thing, he was working at this restaurant and he's the world champ at surfing. And one picture went viral, changed his whole life. Now makes millions of dollars of doing videos, has sponsors to do surfing things. Like that's what the American dream's about. It's not about following this corporate structure. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're still allowed to be yourself. And you said it earlier, this cancel culture, political bullshit, it is a problem. And we have to get out of our own way to live our dreams, right? Too many people are scared to make that change and to make, take the road that you took of the unknown, which ended up being better for you. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that whole idea of fear is instilled in the top. And the whole idea is to like make a lot of these people feel this imposter syndrome that they feel, right? You look at even like job descriptions. A lot of job descriptions are so far-fetched with what they want from a qualification standpoint. Not everyone does this, but a lot of companies will do this so that when people are actually applying to these jobs, they feel as though it's such a stretch and such an honor that they should be privileged. And now they've lost so much negotiation power and leverage when they're doing these things. And I think to your example, that's an American dream. We could sit here and talk for an hour of individuals just like that individual who was in the right place at the right time, but was within their differentiating line of path, right? They knew what they were doing that was going to differentiate them from you and me, because he could do it way better than us and probably anybody else out there. And if you're in a job right now, or you're chasing something that you don't have like natural learned abilities or natural skill set or something of the sort aligned with what you're doing, you'll never catch that break. You'll never be where, you know, your dreams will probably want you to be. So that's it's all good stuff, man.
You remember the Dunkin' Donut commercials where he just gets up and he cooks the donuts every day? Do you remember those?
Yes, I do.
That's what that life reminds me of. Somebody's got to make the donuts, right? He gets his ass up, goes out, makes donuts. It's like, what life is that, right? And you gotta embrace a job is a job, a career is a career, but your life that you want to live, your lifestyle, you know, empowering people, making impact in the world that fulfills you is important. I want to get into this WWE thing, right?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
So tell me about, because it says here, like, you've been in a match and you were listed as the co-champion of the 24/7 WWE belt. I'm an old school WWE fan. Like, I liked Hulk Hogan. I liked The Rock, Stone Cold, those guys. The new guys I struggle watching. But tell me about that experience. Did you beat anybody's ass? What happened?
Oh, you know what? That is such a great, I love that you brought that up. The Rock was like my idol. You talk about like a restart. Think about that dude. Plays in the NFL, broke, has absolutely nothing, and says, I don't care that I have nothing. I don't care. I'm going to continue to get in entertainment, and is now the #1 paid actor of all time. I mean, it's crazy.
And he left wrestling to go act. Like, he changed his life so many times. Like, that's crazy.
Change it, but he knew, like, that's where he was. If we talk about like the self-exam, the rewire process, he knew there was something special about him when it came to entertainment. It didn't matter if it was a WWE, it didn't matter if it was hosting, it didn't matter if it was acting. He was going to find his lane under all circumstances. He did. Look where he is. But let's go back to the WWE question. That has to do with networking, right? It takes one relationship to absolutely change everything for you. And if you want something, no one is going to fucking do it for you. No one. Get your ass up, and you got to find a way to do it yourself. And so WWE's always been a passion of mine. I've always loved it. I liked it back in the day. And so I got connected. I was at an iHeart Music Festival of all things. And I got connected just in a little green room with one of their heads of marketing, and worked the marketing channels up through her and through someone else and someone else, and said, listen, we can be a really good angle for you guys because our demographic is all females. And I knew based on listening to her, they were trying to increase their female demographic viewership. So I was like, we'll do social work for you. What can we do? Well, we figured out paid opportunities to go to WrestleMania. We continued to work the relationship. I played in a celebrity game where Titus O'Neil was our captain, working different angles. And all of a sudden there was going to be a WWE 24/7 belt exchange with Doug Flutie. Now I'm a Buffalo born guy, huge Bills fan, huge Doug Flutie guy. And we were able to angle our way in to say I would be part of the match with Doug Flutie. So we're out on the beach, and he's got to take down the 24/7 champ at that point, takes him down. I'm part of the process. I get the ref. We count it. 1, 2, 3. Doug Flutie becomes a 24/7 champion. And forever, I could say I was part of a WWE match.
Dude, that's so amazing. And you being a Buffalo guy, that's your guy besides the new Josh Allen, right?
Besides the new Josh
and Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith. I mean, all beauties. But to be there with Doug Flutie, to play football with him and win a 24/7, championship match, that's a dream come true. But I want to say, I got this crazy break from being on a reality show, but also all of that came from intensive strategy and networking. And here we are being able to say that we did it.
Yeah, and not quitting, because when you have the opportunity, I always say that train comes by, you either jump on it or you don't, and you don't want to have regret in the future. And I think too many people watch that train go by or that unicorn go by. It's funny you bring up Doug Flutie. I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and my biggest hero is Barry Sanders. And we did a deal for solar with Barry Sanders. So I got to do commercials with him. We became buddies. I'm golfing with him. He comes to my son's birthday party. This is Barry Sanders, my favorite player of all time. So it's like a bucket list thing for me, like a checkbox. I got to have him do dinner with my dad. I'm sitting here marking the boxes of my bucket list. And you've got to do that with Doug Flutie. It's cool when we pursue what we love and these kind of things happen.
Exactly. And I think with those situations and the Barry Sanders one, and that your example reminded me of one now with Andre Reed. We're buddies. My mom and I see us like playing golf together. She's like, what the hell's going on? I think in all these instances, though, for me at least, it's like before I start asking for things, before I think it's cool to hang out with Andre Reed or Doug Flutie, how do I immediately give value? And what can I do to bring something to the table that's different than what exists? And that happened in the WWE scenario. That happened in the Andre Reed scenario. And so I think people got to think, what can I do to add to whatever defines success to them in their eyes before I start trying to wiggle my way in there and doing it genuinely, because you could smell bullshit from 8 miles away these days.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about your podcast, Trading Secrets. Breaks down secrets behind all things money and careers. What are some of the trading secrets we need to know to navigate the financial world as we know it today?
Yes, I love it. So trading secrets, money, careers, the big thing is I want to know where you made money, where you lost money, what your stories are. We've had guests from A-Rod, Gary Vee, Kevin O'Leary, Rob Dyrdek, and all of them come prepared with one trading secret. The one I will tell you, the two biggest takeaways that are pretty consistent with all of them have failed over and over and over and over, and they have fucked up and they have embarrassed themselves. The exact quote from A-Rod was, I look back at my past and I cringe at things I did, absolutely cringe. But the takeaway from all that is fear never, ever got in the way of any of them. And the best person to summarize it was Mark Lowry, multi-billionaire, owns the Minnesota Timberwolves. He calls it living in the sixth gear. He lives so hard and does so many things in the sixth gear full speed that every time he fails and fucks up and embarrasses himself, he instantly gets more information, almost like a poker player, so that he can redeploy his strategy. And he's getting more information and screwing up more times than anybody. But as a result of that, he has been able to live a lifetime of lessons that is greater than any individual out there. And what he'll even compare to like someone living like 10 lifetimes. It would take someone 10 lifetimes to learn what I've learned about myself, because I don't care about fucking up. Right. And so I think that's a huge takeaway. And then from a financial standpoint, the biggest one that, I love when Kevin O'Leary said it. I love when majority of my guests say it. Talk about what you make. Talk about it. Tell your friends what you make. Tell your mom what you make. Tell your peers in your circle what you make. There's no way to get information about where you are, where you want to be, what you want to do, and what your value is unless you have somewhat idea of where people are making money and how much they're making. And when you do that, you're giving yourself more leverage and more information so that you can adjust what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So those are two big takeaways that are fairly general, but really apply to both financial stuff, life stuff, and career navigation.
No, I love that. I had Kevin O'Leary on my show too. He definitely drops a lot of gems and
beauty.
I think that it's about confidence, but it's about when you win too much, you don't learn. You learn from failure. You've got to have those experiences to take that knowledge, like you said, and double down on it. Would you, if I told a comment to you that's in my book, if I said scared money don't make money, what would that mean to you?
Scared money don't make money is a comment I think is 100% accurate. And the thing is what it means to me is if you're not taking big swings, you're not going to have big hits, right? And that goes in everything. You could relate that to like literally dating. You could relate that to financial wealth. You can relate that to, arguments and conversations with friends and new people. If you're just not taking big swings, you're never, ever, ever going to see big hits. You're just not. And so many people are so worried about what everybody else thinks that they can't step out of their box to make an opinion, to stand by their opinion, to make a creative business and know that it could fail because they're so worried about everyone else fucking thinks, which is just ass backward to me.
No, I agree. And everything is a little backwards, especially for the younger generation. I'm hoping they get out of it. Having 4 kids from 23 to 11. I can tell you 2 seem to get it. 2 are still on the fence. But it is hard. This world is hard. And with the pandemic, what advice would you give out there to people looking to invest money? I don't know a lot about crypto. I probably should. But like, what advice you got somebody out there making some coin and they don't know what to do with it. What kind of tips would you give them during this time?
Yeah, the 2 biggest tips I'm going to give anyone at this time. Right now, we all know, or if you don't know, Here you're going to hear it. Inflation 7.9%, right? This is the largest increase year over year we've seen in CPI in 40 years since January 1982. In the last 12 months, we've seen 26% increase plus in energy costs. If you are hearing the word investing and budgeting and saving and all these things, and forever you've kind of ignored it or pushed it to the side, even if a year ago you did it, it wasn't a good thing, but it was okay. Like, you'd be okay because inflation was at 0%. Now you cannot afford to do nothing. You have to do something. Your money is getting crushed by the second. Your earnings are getting crushed by the second. You have to be involved with your budgeting and with your investing. That is tip one. Tip two, there's a lot of shit going on. We have seen through the pandemic with so many people at home, I think technology has advanced at a rate that would have taken typically like 5 to 7 years. We've seen it in 2 years. That has created a ton of opportunity, but that's also created a lot of downfall. And so the biggest thing I could give advice to anyone, if someone says get rich quick, if someone says you're going to double your money, if someone says give me your money, I'm going to invest it for you, do your damn due diligence. If you do not do your due diligence, you will get burned. If you're looking at NFT projects, who are the creators? What's their background? What's their credibility? Who's involved in the project? Are they one of the creators that's hiding their face because they know that there could be a pump and dump? Or are they a creator that says, this is what I own, this is why I own it, this is where I'm going? That goes for tokens and NFT projects. So again, a topic I could talk all day about, but those are 3 tips and tricks that I would recommend anybody really focus on.
Are you digging the NFTs? I just kind of learned about those recently.
Yeah, so I love the NFT space mainly because of utility, right? Like, have you ever had a country club membership of any sort or anything like that? Okay, I figure. So, right, you think about a country club membership. I used to have one in Buffalo and I had to move and I had to get rid of it. Imagine if a country club, every time you have that ownership, you can sell it. And when you do sell it, because you have to leave or you can't afford it or whatever's going on in your life, you don't use it, there's going to be a royalty that makes its way all the way back to the club. This is going to happen with everything, with artists, with music, with creators, with membership, anything that has a forum like that. NFTs will take over. Restaurants, right? I used to be in banking. Restaurants were the hardest businesses to underwrite. I couldn't underwrite them because there was no liquidity in restaurants. Now you have an industry that has no liquidity. And what you could do is tie an NFT to it, like Gary Vee did. His restaurant, which is a club, hasn't even opened. It doesn't open until 2023. And they're already sitting on about $15 million in cash from the resale of these NFTs. So the whole idea of utility behind NFTs and the membership and the ownership forever is something that I don't think will ever go back to normal. And I'm extremely bullish on that.
I've got to get in that. I've learned about it. I haven't invested in it. I keep talking like I got to get into the NFT game because I also believe it's got a huge play in the future. Knowledge is key, and I haven't had the time to really dive into how and when and where. I understand, everything with crypto, but NFTs I think is next level.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that you said, like, I got to dive in before you go invest in, right? Like, that's such a good lesson right there. I'm going to go do my research. I'm going to figure out how this works. I'm going to call the players that I know and then make my move. And I think anyone should be doing that. Just don't follow someone's lead blindly. It usually will never work out in your favor.
No, amen to that. So right now, what's next for you? What do you got going on in the next year or two?
Yeah, so Trading Secrets we launched just over a year ago, and that podcast has really been going well. And my first book just comes out here April 5th, the Restart Roadmap, and I'm doing an 8-city tour. We're going 8 cities in 8 days, man, and you better damn believe Detroit is on that list. I'll be at the Pistons game actually, so that's exciting. And then one of the things I've learned through this industry is this whole social media influencing world is just nuts. And just like the NFT game, there's a lot of gaps and there's a lot of opportunities to improve things through efficiency. So I recently invested, I own 50% of a talent agency in which we are repping different talent from reality television. We got athletes, we have script, we have actors, actresses, we're all kind of all over the place now, but we're really building and growing in that space. So that's exciting. And I got signed for a second book, so I got to start writing that. So man, a lot of projects, but just really having fun with it. And the thing is with all those projects, it goes back to these are all things I just love doing that I think I have a natural skill set in. So when I wake up and I do them, it's not work. It's like, hell yeah, I can't wait for that next project to come out.
No, good stuff, Jason. Good stuff. And make sure you say what's up to my boy Kate Cunningham with the Pistons. That guy's balling, right? How can the folks find you, right? We know about your Trading Secrets podcast. Where can they find you? Where can they get your book? We'll have some stuff at the bottom, but share where they can start following you at.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. So the book you can get anywhere, Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, The Restart Roadmap, all my social handles, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of them are just Jason, Jason _Tartick, Tartick. And then also I talked a little bit about Restart. We have a page called Restart _Reset. And the way I would summarize that is we post all the things that you got to know going into your day at a basic level to understand. So that's Restart _Reset. And that's about it, man.
Dude, Jason, thank you for your time. Thanks for dropping gems. Thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for winning a belt with our boy Doug Flutie, right? And thanks for keeping it real, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, man. And the last thing I'll say is I get the opportunity to do a lot of podcasts and interviews. I don't know that I've met someone that's got as much energy and tenacity as you do. It's contagious. Keep going. It was a pleasure to be here.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Bam! And that concludes another episode here on True Underdog. If you're interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube channel. You can always visit trueunderdog.com, subscribe to all of them. Make sure you check out our newest episodes coming out on Mondays and Thursdays. True Underdog, baby. Bam!